So, I want to say something about the nature of astrological knowledge. I've got about 10 different thoughts floating around. I'll try and put them together. And I woke up with one particular one this morning to do with faith and intuition and how the latter arises from the former. But I'll get to that. First of all, astrology is not scientific, it's not that form of knowledge because it uses different faculties than are used for science. Let's go back to fire, earth, air, and water, those fundamental building blocks of reality, which you get among the Native Americans and you get in the Western esoteric tradition. It goes back a long way. They have a power: fire, earth, air, and water, sun, rain, soil, and wind. That brings it closer, doesn't it? You can feel, you can taste those, you can touch them. In this way, astrological knowledge is experiential. It's through the senses. It's not through the mind. And it's a good way to do a chart is to begin with the elements. You could probably do a whole reading on the elements and just let them speak through you. This is part of the nature of astrological knowing, is that we're letting something speak through us. It's not just part of the nature, it's the whole of the nature of it. Something is speaking through us. And something speaks through us when we have a strong relationship with it. It's present with us. That's why the sun and the moon are so important, not just because they're the biggest objects in the sky, but because we have the strongest relationship with them. When we feel them in our bodies, then it's like they speak through us. And what we say rings true for the other person. It's a mysterious process. So we use all four elements. We use the intuition, fire. We use feeling, water. We use air, the mind. We have this chart. Yeah, it's intellectually sort of created. And then we have earth. We have the body. We have the person sitting there with us. We have the facts of their lives. So we have all four of those. Science just mainly uses earth and air, data and theory. It calls them objective, and fire and water, intuition, feeling are merely subjective. They need to be cast out so that it will be objective and have real knowledge as they see it. Well, science is a valid means of knowing of a very particular sort, but it is just earth and air, whereas we have all four. So we are the senior discipline. Yeah? Science needs to look for us for validation, not the other way round. Don't have it. Yeah? We don't need to justify who we are in scientific terms. And if anyone says, well, what is the scientific justification for astrology? There is none. It's a nonsense from that point of view that there's a literal cause and effect relationship, that lump of rock up there in the sky causes that to happen down here. It's not like that. It is a nonsense, and just freely admit it. It's another form of knowledge that is not amenable to science. I recommend Jeffrey Cornelius's book, The Moment of Astrology. He goes through all or many of the attempts to prove astrology scientifically, and none of them really work. They might work for a bit and then they break down at best. And he says the only reasonable conclusion after all this time is that astrology is not scientific. Yeah. So go with that. And it's not respectable from the scientific point of view. Good. We have to find our own confidence in our intuition. We're not going to get that validated from without. It's a good struggle to have. Because when we have these struggles, we find something within eventually. All that self-doubt, that fire of self-doubt that we go through to find that guidance from within. And that's really what we're doing when we do an astrology reading. we're helping people trust their guidance from within. They might be starting from the other viewpoint. It's like, I don't know who I am. Yeah, I don't know how to live my life. What do the stars tell me? And well, yeah, they will tell you, but the stars also are you. So our job is to help people trust their own guidance rather than use the stars as a substitute for it, which is an easy thing to do. And then people get spooked by it. Oh God, I've got a Pluto transit coming up. Isn't that terrible? And it's like, no, no. People get superstitious about it. So really, the astrological knowledge is something that speaks through us. It cannot be verified statistically because each instance of it is individual. Jung tried this. Jung used to do astrology charts for all his clients. It helps you get a head start on what it is you need to talk about with them. And he found in relationships between people who are married, there were these sun-moon connections, which is what astrology says. So he thought, oh, wow, now I can prove it scientifically. So he then gets a load of them, and of course it breaks down. Yeah, it's like this trickster comes in. As soon as you try and nail it down, it's like the fairy realm. As soon as was there a fairy there? If you try and prove it, you won't see it. But there was definitely something there for a moment. But as soon as you pin it down, it's gone. It won't be, in a way, insulted like that. It's beneath it to be treated in that sort of way. So it is what we call intuitive. It's something that speaks through us. And the reason it speaks through us is because we have faith. That was my thought this morning. If you're reading a chart, you're doing it out of faith. You have a faith that Venus there means something, or that Mars there means something, or the sun there means something. It's not something you can prove. It's something you feel. You just kind of know. You have this strange connection in you. And that feeling communicates itself to the other person. Yeah. It enchants the universe for them too. In Christianity, they talk about the eyes of faith. That it's not, you have knowledge and wisdom that comes from seeing into the heart of things, into the divine nature of the universe, whatever, rather than with merely human eyes. So faith gives us more than merely human eyes. That's the nature of astrological knowing. I mean, faith's got a bad name because it's associated with blind faith, with just believing without reason. But faith, certainly in the Buddhist tradition, which I was around for many years, it's based on knowledge, it's based on wisdom. They go together. And it means that you can see. So this faith we have, this feeling we have about the planets, this strong feeling, this strong magical feeling, for astrologers, we have that. And it's in our bones. We can't explain it. We can't justify it. It just is. And it's our route through to the divine, if you like, to intuitive knowledge. So cherish that feeling you have in your bones. That feeling you have in your bones for astrology is faith. It's faith that Venus is saying something, that Mars is saying something useful for the other person. And it's not something you can rationally justify. It's something, but it is something you can trust because it's something you can live and you find that it works. Pluto comes along and squares your sun. You go through this huge underworld journey. You see it working. And you see the depth that it gives you, the depth of human knowledge that this faith gives you. That scientific approach, which has its own narrow remit, can never do. This faith brings us into the depths of the soul. And our faith is in 10 different gods, not just one. And that's great because you can dance between them and you can keep your own soul. It's harder for it to descend into fundamentalism when you've got 10 realities instead of one. Because fundamentalism is when there's only one reality. And we've got at least 10. In a way, we're polytheists. Right, I better stop there. Okay.